Of all the cinematic undertakings in modern history, few have been as audacious, as fraught with peril, or as ultimately triumphant as Peter Jackson's adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. To bring Middle-earth to the screen was a quest in itself, a journey filled with last-minute casting changes, groundbreaking technological leaps, and a cast and crew who poured their very souls into the project for years on end in the wild landscapes of New Zealand. The result was a trilogy that didn't just win Oscars and dominate the box office. It became a global cultural phenomenon, a benchmark for epic filmmaking that remains unparalleled. But behind the sweeping vistas and epic battles lies a treasure trove of incredible stories, tales of dedication, serendipity, and sheer, bloody-minded determination. These are the details that reveal the true magic behind the movies, a magic forged not by wizards, but by artists, actors, and technicians pushing the boundaries of their craft. From actors who literally broke bones for their roles to screenplays that were rewritten over 100 times, these facts will give you a new appreciation for the monumental achievement that is The Lord of the Rings trilogy. 1. Script revisions galore. The journey from page to screen was anything but straightforward. The final screenplay, a masterclass in adaptation, was the result of a grueling and relentless process of refinement. Peter Jackson, along with his partners Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, churned through more than 100 distinct revisions over several years. Early drafts contained some truly bizarre and fascinating departures from the source material. The most notorious of these was a proposed climax for The Return of the King, where Aragorn would face off against a physical manifestation of Sauron at the Black Gate. This wasn't just a hulking figure in black armor. The idea was for Sauron to appear in a beautiful angelic form, a callback to his original identity as a benevolent Maya corrupted by evil. This form, known as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, would have tempted Aragorn, preying on his doubts and weaknesses before transforming into a terrifying warrior for their final duel. Viggo Mortensen even filmed the complex fight sequence. However, Jackson and his team ultimately realized this was a profound misstep. It not only deviated too far from Tolkien's lore, in which Sauron could no longer assume a fair form after the fall of Númenor, but it also undermined the true climax of the story, Frodo and Sam's agonizing internal struggle at Mount Doom. Scrapping the sequence was a painful but crucial decision, demonstrating their commitment to the spirit of Tolkien's work over a more conventional Hollywood showdown. 2. Sean Connery's script. Confusion. In one of the great what-ifs of casting history, the legendary Sean Connery was the first choice to play Gandalf. The producers offered him a deal that is now the stuff of Hollywood legend, a handsome salary plus a staggering 15% of the trilogy's box office profits. With the films ultimately grossing nearly $3 billion worldwide, this deal would have netted Connery an estimated $450 million, making it one of the largest paydays ever offered to an actor. Connery, however, turned it down. His reason was simple and famously blunt. "I read the book, I read the script, I saw the movie, I still don't understand it," he later confessed. He couldn't wrap his head around the fantasy world and his role within it. It's a decision he reportedly came to regret after witnessing the film's monumental success and Ian McKellen's iconic, career-defining performance. 3. Aragorn casting carousel. Viggo Mortensen is Aragorn, but he was famously a last-minute miracle. The role was originally given to a young Irish actor named Stuart Townsend, who at 27 spent 2 months training intensively in sword fighting and horse riding. However, just 1 day before his scenes were scheduled to begin, the filmmakers made the brutal decision to let him go. They had realized, belatedly, that despite his talent, he simply looked too young to portray the weathered 87-year-old Dunedain Ranger. A frantic, worldwide search ensued. Peter Jackson called Viggo Mortensen, a relatively unknown character actor at the time, offering him the role of a lifetime. Mortensen, hesitant to commit to such a long shoot away from home, was convinced to accept by his then 11-year-old son Henry, a devoted fan of the books. He was on a plane to New Zealand within 48 hours, reading the novel on the flight, and arriving on set with virtually no prep time, stepping directly into one of the most demanding roles in cinema history. Fourth, Hobbit feet prosthetics. Bringing the Hobbit's famously large, leathery feet to life was a daily ordeal. The four main Hobbit actors, Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Billy Boyd, and Dominic Monaghan, had to endure a 1.5-hour application process every single morning. They would stand on a cold floor while makeup artists glued on custom-molded latex prosthetics, which were then blended and painted. These feet were designed to be durable, but the grueling conditions of the shoot meant they often tore or wore out by the end of the day. The production had to create an astonishing 1,800 pairs of Hobbit feet to get through the entire shoot. After filming wrapped, Elijah Wood was given a pair as a keepsake, a memento of the countless hours spent becoming Frodo Baggins from the toes up. 5. Christopher Lee's Saruman obsession. The late, great Sir Christopher Lee was not just an actor in the trilogy, he was its most devoted and knowledgeable superfan. A lifelong admirer of Tolkien's work, he made it a personal tradition to reread The Lord of the Rings every single year. He was also the only person involved in the entire production who had actually met J.R.R. Tolkien in person, a chance encounter in an Oxford pub that he cherished for the rest of his life. When he heard the films were being made, he passionately lobbied for the role of Gandalf. While Jackson and his team felt the physically demanding role required a slightly younger actor, they knew Lee's gravitas and deep voice were perfect for the fallen wizard, Saruman. Lee accepted graciously, bringing an unmatched level of lore expertise and personal passion to the set. 6. Daniel Day-Lewis declined Aragorn. Before the frantic call to Viggo Mortensen, the producers had their sights set on another master actor, Daniel Day-Lewis. Known for his intense, immersive method acting, Day-Lewis was seen as a perfect fit for the brooding and complex air of Gondor. Peter Jackson reportedly offered him the role 3 separate times, but Day-Lewis, notoriously selective about his projects, turned it down each time, expressing a disinterest in the fantasy genre. Another major contender was Russell Crowe, who was fresh off his Oscar-winning role in Gladiator. Crowe, however, felt that Aragorn was too similar to his character Maximus and passed on the project, later stating he felt it was not really me. 7. Elijah Wood's audition tape. The competition to play Frodo Baggins was fierce, with notable actors like Jake Gyllenhaal and Tobey Maguire in the running. Elijah Wood, determined to land the part, decided to go above and beyond a simple reading. He hired a dialect coach to perfect a Hobbit-like accent, rented a period costume, and, with the help of his friends, including director George Huang, filmed his own high-quality audition tape in the wooded hills of California. He performed several scenes from the book, showcasing his ability to capture Frodo's innocence, fear, and resolve. When Peter Jackson received the tape, he was blown away by Wood's commitment and passion. The homemade audition immediately set him apart from the pack and secured him the central role in the trilogy. 8. Viggo's sword mishap. The stories of Viggo Mortensen's on-set dedication are legendary, and none is more famous than the incident of the broken toe. In a scene in the Two Towers, Aragorn, believing Merry and Pippin to have been killed, kicks a heavy orc helmet in frustration. On the 5th take, Mortensen kicked the helmet with such force that he broke 2 of his toes. Instead of stopping, he channeled the searing, real-life pain into his performance, letting out a blood-curdling scream of agony and collapsing to his knees. It was so authentic and powerful that Peter Jackson chose that exact take for the final film, later remarking on the DVD commentary, "What a guy! We were buying him a new toe." 9. Sean Bean's fear of flying. Filming in the remote mountainous terrain of New Zealand required extensive use of helicopters to transport cast and crew. This posed a significant problem for Sean Bean, who has a profound fear of flying. Rather than endure the daily flights, Bean would often opt to hike to the remote filming locations himself, in full Boromir costume. In one memorable instance, while filming the Fellowship's journey over the snowy pass of Caradhras, his co-stars watched from their helicopter as Bean spent 2 hours trudging up the side of a mountain, a tiny figure in armor against a vast landscape, ready for the day's shoot. His dedication to avoiding air travel became a fond running joke among the cast. 10. Orlando Bloom's broken rib. Viggo Mortensen wasn't the only member of the Fellowship to suffer for his art. During the filming of a battle scene in the Two Towers, Orlando Bloom was thrown from his horse. In the tumble, another actor's prosthetic leg fell on top of him, cracking one of his ribs. Despite the painful injury, Bloom's dedication was unwavering. He was back on set and filming the very next day, a testament to the get-on-with-it attitude that permeated the entire production and the resilience of its young cast. 11. Andy Serkis's Gollum voice. Origin. Andy Serkis's transformative performance as Gollum redefined the possibilities of performance capture, but the character's iconic voice came from a very humble and slightly disgusting source. When preparing for his audition, Serkis struggled to find the right sound. He knew the voice had to feel organic and painful, rooted in the character's guilt and obsession. Inspiration struck while watching his pet cat, Diz, coughing up a hairball. The guttural, retching sound it made became the basis for Gollum's signature rasp and the gurgling Gollum noise he makes in his throat. Serkis unleashed this bizarre, fully formed characterization during his audition, stunning the casting directors and instantly winning the role. 12th. Massive Software's birth. Creating the trilogy's colossal battle scenes involving hundreds of thousands of individual soldiers posed an unprecedented technical challenge. To solve it, Weta Digital, ILM's New Zealand-based visual effects counterpart, developed a revolutionary piece of crowd simulation software called Massive, Multiple Agent Simulation System in Virtual Environment. This was not simple copy-and-paste animation. Each digital orc, elf, or man was an autonomous agent with its own rudimentary AI, given a range of potential behaviors and the ability to see its surroundings and react to the agents around it. This allowed for incredibly realistic and complex battle sequences like the Battle of Helm's Deep, where up to 200,000 unique digital soldiers fought with a terrifying and chaotic realism that had never been seen before. 13. One Ring. Replicas. The One Ring is the center of the entire saga, and the prop department treated it with appropriate reverence. Around 15 different One Ring props were created for the production. Most were standard-sized, but a special oversized version, about 6 inches in diameter, was also forged. This larger ring was used for close-up shots, such as when the ring falls onto Frodo's finger or is seen in the snow, allowing the camera to capture the inscription in crisp detail without losing focus. At the end of filming, Peter Jackson and Elijah Wood were each gifted one of the screen-used rings. Andy Serkis also received one, a precious keepsake of his iconic role. 14. Hobbiton Set Reconstruction. The idyllic, charming village of Hobbiton was built on a private sheep farm in Matamata, New Zealand. The set was a marvel of detail, with 39 unique hobbit holes, gardens, a mill, and a double-arched bridge. After filming on The Fellowship of the Ring concluded, much of the set was dismantled, leaving behind only the bare, unadorned Hobbit hole facades. However, when Peter Jackson returned to film the Hobbit trilogy nearly a decade later, the entire set was rebuilt using permanent materials like stone, concrete, and real wood. Today, the fully restored Hobbiton movie set is a permanent tourist attraction, allowing fans to wander the paths of the Shire for themselves. 15. Ian McKellen's Gandalf. Isolation. The magic of filmmaking often involves a great deal of technical trickery. To maintain the illusion of scale between the towering Gandalf and the diminutive hobbits, the actors often had to be filmed separately. One of the most poignant examples was the Grey Havens scene at the end of Return of the King. While the hobbits were on the physical boat set, Ian McKellen filmed his emotional farewell completely alone, surrounded by nothing but a vast green screen. The other actors' performances were fed to him through an earpiece, and he had to deliver his heartfelt goodbyes to tennis balls on sticks. It was a lonely and technically challenging way to film such an emotional climax, a testament to McKellen's immense skill as an actor. 16. Viggo's Real Sword. Viggo Mortensen's immersion into the role of Aragorn was total. He became so attached to his character's sword, Andúril, that he carried it with him almost everywhere, both on and off set, to maintain his connection to the character. This led to some interesting encounters. He would practice his swordsmanship in his free time, and there were several reports of local police being called by concerned citizens who saw a man wandering around with a large sword. In one anecdote, he was giving a hitchhiker a ride when the sword, which he kept in the passenger seat, slid out, thoroughly alarming his passenger until he explained what it was for. 17. Liv Tyler's Elvish Fluency. Tolkien was a master linguist who created several detailed languages for his world, including the Elvish tongue of Sindarin. The filmmakers hired dialect coaches to ensure the actors spoke these constructed languages authentically. Liv Tyler, who played Arwen, dedicated herself to the task with incredible passion. She worked tirelessly to learn her Elvish lines, not just phonetically, but with an understanding of the grammar and flow. She became so fluent and comfortable with the language that she impressed the linguistic consultants, delivering her lines with a grace and realism that made the ancient language feel truly alive. 18. Treebeard's Walking Rig. The ancient Ent, Treebeard, was brought to life through a clever combination of puppetry, CGI, and the voice of John Rhys Davies, who also played Gimli. To provide a physical reference for the animators and the other actors, a massive 14-foot-tall stilt-walking rig was constructed. This cumbersome contraption was operated on set by a puppeteer. For the motion capture elements, John Rhys Davies himself would sometimes get into the rig, enduring long, uncomfortable hours to help guide the character's movements, while simultaneously providing Treebeard's deep, resonant voice. 19th. Gollum's CGI milestone. Gollum was more than just a special effect. He was a fully realized character whose emotional depth captivated audiences. In 2003, this groundbreaking achievement was officially recognized when Gollum won the MTV Movie Award for Best Virtual Performance. In a memorable and hilarious moment, Andy Serkis accepted the award in character, delivering a profanity-laden and bitter acceptance speech as Gollum, who famously complained about being snubbed at the Oscars. It was the first time a CGI character had been honored with a major acting award, cementing Gollum's place in cinema history. 20. Orc Extras Endurance. The epic scale of the Battle of the Pelennor Fields in Return of the King required a literal army of extras. At its peak, the production enlisted up to 20,000 people to portray the armies of orcs, men, and elves. These extras would endure grueling 12-hour days, often in the blistering New Zealand sun, encased in heavy, uncomfortable armor and suffocating latex masks and makeup. Their dedication and endurance were crucial to creating the tangible sense of scale and chaos that makes the film's climactic battle so breathtaking. 21st. Eowyn's Shield Maiden Training. Miranda Otto, who portrayed the fierce Shield Maiden Eowyn, fully committed to the physicality of her role. To believably portray a warrior capable of facing down the Witch King of Angmar, she underwent 6 weeks of intensive training. She learned complex sword-fighting choreography, horse riding, and how to move and fight while wearing heavy armor. Her dedication ensured that Eowyn was not just a character who talked about fighting, but one who looked completely authentic and formidable in the heat of battle. 22. Shelob's design basis. The terrifying giant spider, Shelob, was designed to tap into primal fears. The artists at Weta Workshop based her horrifying appearance on a real-life arachnid native to New Zealand, the tunnel web spider. This species is known for its large, black, and somewhat bulbous appearance, which gave Shelob her creepy, crawly realism. To create her sticky and trapping webs, the practical effects team experimented with various materials, ultimately settling on a liquid silicone substance that was sprayed out to create the thick, gooey strands that ensnare Frodo. 23rd. Jackson's cameo tradition. Like Alfred Hitchcock before him, Peter Jackson made a habit of appearing in small cameo roles in his own films. He can be spotted in all 3 movies of the trilogy. In The Fellowship of the Ring, he is a portly, carrot-chomping resident of Bree named Albert Dreary. In The Two Towers, he appears as a spear-throwing Rohirrim soldier defending the gate at Helm's Deep. Finally, in the extended edition of The Return of the King, he is seen as one of the villainous corsair pirates on a ship that is attacked by Aragorn's army of the dead. 24. Viggo's Toothbreak. Viggo Mortensen's list of onset injuries continued to grow throughout the production. During the filming of the chaotic Battle of Helm's Deep in The Two Towers, he chipped one of his front teeth in the middle of a fight sequence. A true professional, he didn't want to halt the day's filming. He reportedly asked for some superglue to stick the tooth back together so he could finish the scene. The crew, of course, insisted he see a proper dentist, but not before he tried to solve the problem himself to keep the production moving. 25th. Sean Astin's foot injury. One of the most gruesome injuries of the entire shoot happened to Sean Astin. While filming the scene at the end of The Fellowship of the Ring, where Samwise Gamgee heroically wades into the river after Frodo's boat, Astin stepped on a sharp shard of glass that was hidden underwater. The shard impaled his foot, creating a deep, bloody gash. The wound was so severe that he had to be airlifted by helicopter to a hospital for stitches. It was a painful end to a physically and emotionally demanding shoot for the actor who so perfectly embodied Sam's unwavering loyalty. 26. Arwen's Cut battle scene. In one of the most significant deviations from the books, the original script for The Two Towers had Arwen joining the elves at Helm's Deep and fighting alongside Aragorn. Liv Tyler filmed the extensive battle scenes, training for months in swordplay. However, as news of this change leaked, a vocal contingent of hardcore Tolkien fans expressed their displeasure, arguing it betrayed Arwen's character and the book's narrative. Listening to the feedback and re-evaluating the story, the filmmakers ultimately agreed. The scenes were cut, but some of the footage was cleverly repurposed for a dreamlike vision sequence, preserving Tyler's performance while keeping the story closer to its source. 27th. Gollum's Fish Song. The whimsical and slightly disturbing song that Gollum sings while catching a fish in The Two Towers, "The rockin' pool is nice and cool, so juicy sweet," was another moment of genius from Andy Serkis. The lyrics were adapted from a poem in Tolkien's book, but the tune and the playful, splashing performance were entirely improvised by Serkis on the day of shooting. It was a small moment, but it perfectly captured Gollum's fractured psyche, a brief, almost innocent glimpse of his former Smeagol self before the darkness reasserted itself. 28th. Weta Workshop's scale. The sheer scale of the craftsmanship required for the trilogy is almost impossible to comprehend. Weta Workshop, the practical effects and design company co-founded by Peter Jackson, was tasked with creating the physical world of Middle-earth. Led by Richard Taylor, a team of over 150 artisans designed and fabricated an astounding 48,000 individual props. This included everything from swords and armor to furniture and buttons. For the battle scenes alone, they produced over 10,000 real arrows and 500 bows. They also created 19,000 costumes from scratch, ensuring that every culture, from the elegant elves to the grimy orcs, had a distinct and detailed look. 29th. Trilogy's runtime record. Peter Jackson's trilogy is a titan of cinema in every sense, including its length. The combined runtime of the theatrical editions is 558 minutes, 9 hours and 18 minutes. The beloved extended editions, which restore a significant amount of footage, clock in at a staggering 686 minutes, 11 hours and 26 minutes. The Return of the King holds a specific record. With a theatrical runtime of 201 minutes, it is the longest film ever to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, a testament to the Academy's recognition of its epic scope and masterful storytelling. 30. New Zealand tourism boom. The impact of The Lord of the Rings extended far beyond the cinema. The films served as a breathtaking three-part advertisement for the stunning natural beauty of New Zealand. In the years following the trilogy's release, tourism to the country skyrocketed by an estimated 50%. The New Zealand government reported that Middle-earth-related tourism became a massive industry, generating hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Tour companies specializing in visiting filming locations flourished, and the country's identity became inextricably linked with the world of Tolkien, a powerful and lasting legacy of this monumental production. These stories, woven together, paint a picture of a production that was more than just a film shoot. It was a fellowship. The shared sense of purpose, the willingness to endure hardship, and the collective passion for Tolkien's world created a lightning-in-a-bottle moment in cinema history. It's a powerful reminder that the greatest cinematic journeys are often the ones that demand the most from their creators, both in front of and behind the camera. The result is a trilogy that feels less like it was simply made and more like it was painstakingly brought to life, ensuring its place in the hearts of audiences for generations to come.